The lost wallet at the train station. It was a cool Monday morning in early autumn. The sky was gray, and a light wind moved through the city streets. People walked quickly to work. Some carried coffee cups. Others looked at their phones. The city was busy as always. 24-year-old Emma Parker left her apartment at 7 o'clock. She lived alone in a small apartment near the center of the city. Emma worked as a receptionist at a dental clinic. She liked her job because she enjoyed helping people. Emma wore a blue coat, black shoes, and a white scarf. She carried a brown bag on her shoulder. Inside her bag, she had her lunch, a small notebook, her keys, and her wallet. Emma always left home early. She did not like to be late. She walked for 10 minutes to Central train station. She listened to music through her headphones as she walked. When Emma arrived at the station, many people were already there. Some people stood near the ticket machines. Others waited on the platforms. The station was noisy. Emma removed her headphones and looked at the large clock on the wall. 7:35, she said quietly. Perfect. Emma bought a cup of hot tea from a small shop inside the station. The woman at the shop smiled. Good morning, the woman said. Good morning, Emma replied with a smile. Emma paid for her tea and walked toward platform 3. Her train usually arrived at 7:45. As she walked, she noticed an elderly man standing near a bench. He looked worried. He searched his pockets again and again. He looked at the floor and then looked around the station. Emma slowed down. She wanted to help, but she was not sure if she should. The man sighed deeply. Then he sat down on the bench and lowered his head. Emma walked closer. Excuse me, she said kindly. Are you okay? The man looked up. He had gray hair and kind eyes. Oh, he said softly. Yes. Well, maybe not. Emma sat beside him. What happened? She asked. The man looked embarrassed. I think I lost something, he said. What did you lose? My wallet. Emma felt sorry for him. Oh no, she said. Did you lose it here? The man nodded. I believe so. I arrived about 20 minutes ago. I bought a newspaper and a coffee. After that, I could not find my wallet. Emma looked around the station floor. Have you checked everywhere? She asked. Yes, the man replied. I checked my pockets, my bag, and the coffee shop. What is your name? Emma asked. My name is Robert Wilson, he said. And you? I'm Emma. Nice to meet you, Emma. Nice to meet you too, Mr. Wilson. Robert smiled weakly. The wallet is very important, he said. It has my bank cards, my identification card, and a photo of my wife. Emma noticed that Robert looked very sad when he mentioned his wife. Is your wife here with you? She asked. Robert shook his head. No, he said quietly. She passed away 3 years ago. The photo is very special to me. Emma's heart felt heavy. I understand, she said softly. We will find it. Robert looked surprised. We? Emma smiled. Yes, we. At that moment, Emma heard an announcement. Train number 218 to North District arriving on platform 3. That was Emma's train. She looked toward the platform. Then she looked back at Robert. She thought for a moment. I can take the next train, she said. You don't have to do that, Robert replied. I want to help. Robert smiled for the first time. Thank you, he said. Emma stood up. Let's think, she said. Where did you go after you entered the station? Robert stood up slowly. First, I bought a newspaper. Okay, Emma said. Let's start there. Together, they walked to the newspaper stand near the main entrance. A young man worked there. He wore a green jacket and looked busy. Excuse me, Emma said politely. Did this gentleman leave a wallet here? The young man looked at Robert and shook his head. I'm sorry, he said. I haven't seen one. Robert looked disappointed. Thank you anyway, Emma said. They walked away. Where did you go after that? Emma asked. I bought a coffee, Robert answered. Okay, let's go there. The coffee shop was crowded. People waited in line and talked loudly. Emma walked to the counter. Excuse me, she asked the employee. Has anyone found a wallet this morning? The employee thought for a moment. No, she replied. I'm sorry. Robert looked down at the floor. I was afraid of that, he said. Emma did not give up. When did you last see the wallet? She asked. Robert closed his eyes and tried to remember. I think, he said slowly, I had it when I sat on a bench. Which bench? Emma asked. Robert looked around the station. He pointed toward the far side of the waiting area. That one. Emma and Robert quickly walked toward the bench. When they arrived, the bench was empty. Emma looked under the bench. She looked behind it. Then suddenly, she saw something small near the wall. Her eyes became wide. Wait, she said quietly. She slowly walked closer. Something brown was lying on the floor. It looked exactly like a wallet. Emma bent down and picked up the brown object from the floor. Robert stepped forward quickly. My wallet? He asked hopefully. Emma looked carefully at the object. Then she shook her head. I'm sorry, she said. It's not a wallet. Robert's face fell. What is it? He asked. Emma turned it over in her hands. It is a small notebook, she said. Robert sighed. I really thought we found it. Emma smiled kindly. We are not finished yet. Robert nodded, but he looked tired. The station was becoming even busier. More people arrived every minute. The sound of footsteps, voices, and train announcements filled the air. Emma looked at the large clock. It was now 7:55. She was already late for work. Her phone suddenly rang. Emma looked at the screen. It was her manager, Mrs. Collins. Oh, Emma said quietly. You should answer, Robert said. Emma nodded and answered the call. Hello, Mrs. Collins. Emma, where are you? Mrs. Collins asked. I'm very sorry, Emma replied. I'm still at Central Station. Is everything okay? Emma looked at Robert. Yes, she said. Well, not exactly. I'm helping someone. There was silence for a moment. Helping someone? Mrs. Collins asked. An elderly man lost his wallet. Mrs. Collins sighed. That sounds difficult. Yes, Emma said. Another moment of silence passed. Then Mrs. Collins spoke again. All right, just come as soon as you can. Thank you very much, Emma said. She ended the call. You are very kind, Robert said. Emma smiled. I hope my manager still thinks so. Robert laughed softly. It was the first time Emma heard him laugh. Let's continue, she said. Robert nodded. Where else did you go this morning? Emma asked. Robert thought carefully. Sat on another bench near the ticket machines. Good, Emma said. Let's check there. They walked through the station together. People hurried past them. A child cried. Someone dropped a newspaper. A train arrived with a loud sound. The station felt bigger and louder than before. Soon they reached the ticket machines. There were 4 benches nearby. Which one? Emma asked. Robert looked around. I think that one, he said, pointing to a bench near the window. They walked over. An older woman sat there reading a magazine. Excuse me, Emma said politely. "Did you happen to see a wallet here this morning?" The woman looked up. "A wallet?" she repeated. "Yes," Robert said. "A brown leather wallet." The woman thought for a moment. "I'm sorry," she said. "I did see a young man pick something up from this bench." Emma and Robert looked at each other. "A young man?" Emma asked. "Yes," the woman replied. "He wore a black jacket and carried a red backpack." Robert's eyes widened. "Did he take the wallet?" he asked. The woman shrugged. "I don't know. He picked something up and walked away." "Which way did he go?" Emma asked. The woman pointed toward the east side of the station. "That direction." "Thank you very much," Emma said. Emma and Robert quickly walked toward the east side of the station. As they walked, Robert looked worried. "What if he stole it?" he asked. "We don't know that," Emma replied. "Maybe he wanted to return it." "I hope so." They reached the east entrance of the station. Many people stood near the doors. Emma looked around carefully. She saw business people, students, tourists, and families. But she did not see anyone with a red backpack. Then she noticed a security officer standing nearby. "Excuse me," Emma said. The security officer turned toward her. "How can I help you?" he asked. Emma explained everything. The officer listened carefully. "I understand," he said. "Please come with me." He led them to the station's security office. The office was small but clean. Several computer screens showed cameras from different parts of the station. A woman in a security uniform sat behind a desk. "What's the problem?" she asked. The officer explained the situation. The woman nodded. "We can check the security cameras," she said. Robert looked surprised. "Really?" he asked. "Yes," she replied. She typed on her computer for several moments. Then she turned one of the screens toward them. "Let's see," she said. The video showed the waiting area from earlier that morning. Emma watched carefully. "There!" Robert suddenly said. He pointed at himself on the screen. The video showed Robert sitting on the bench. A few seconds later, he stood up and walked away. Then another person entered the screen. A young man wearing a black jacket and carrying a red backpack. Emma's heart beat faster. The young man looked around. Then he bent down. "He found something," Robert said. The security officer leaned closer. The young man picked up an object from the bench. Then he looked at it. After that, he did something unexpected. He walked directly toward the station information desk. Emma blinked. "He didn't run away," she said. "No," the officer agreed. The security woman switched to another camera. The young man appeared again. He stood at the information desk and spoke to an employee. Then he handed over the object. Robert stared at the screen. "Does that mean—" he began. The security woman smiled. "It means someone may have turned in your wallet." Robert looked shocked. "Really?" The security officer nodded. The Lost and Found office opened at 8 o'clock. Emma smiled widely. "Then let's go." For the first time that morning, Robert's face filled with hope. Emma and Robert thanked the security officers. "Thank you very much for your help," Robert said. "You are welcome," the woman replied. "I hope you find your wallet." Emma and Robert left the security office. As they walked through the station, Robert looked happier than before. "I cannot believe it," he said. "Someone actually returned it." Emma smiled. "There are many good people in the world," she said. Robert nodded. "Yes, sometimes we forget that." The Lost and Found office was on the second floor of the station. Emma and Robert walked up the stairs together. When they arrived, they saw a small office with a sign above the door. The sign said, "Lost and Found." A young woman sat behind a desk inside the office. She smiled as they entered. "Good morning," she said. Good morning, Emma replied. We are looking for a lost wallet. The woman nodded. Can you describe the wallet? Robert stepped forward. It is brown leather, he said. It has several cards inside and a photograph. The woman typed something into her computer. Then she looked up. Yes, she said. A wallet was brought here this morning. Robert's face became bright. That's wonderful, he said. The woman smiled. Can you tell me your full name? Robert James Wilson, he replied. The woman looked at the screen again. Then her smile slowly disappeared. Oh, she said quietly. What is wrong? Robert asked. The woman looked uncomfortable. I'm sorry, she said. There is a problem. Emma felt nervous. What kind of problem? She asked. The woman folded her hands. The wallet was transferred to the station manager's office. Robert looked confused. Why? The woman hesitated. Because there was something unusual inside. Emma and Robert looked at each other. Unusual? Emma repeated. The woman nodded. I'm sorry, but I don't know the details. Robert frowned. My wallet only contains my cards, some cash, and my wife's photograph. The woman stood up. The station manager can explain everything. She pointed toward another hallway. His office is at the end of the corridor. Robert thanked her. Then he and Emma walked down the hallway. Neither of them spoke for several seconds. Finally, Robert broke the silence. What could be unusual about my wallet? He asked. I don't know, Emma replied honestly. They stopped in front of a wooden door. A small sign read, Station Manager, Mr. David Harris. Emma knocked. Come in, a voice answered. They entered the office. A man around 60 years old sat behind a large desk. He wore glasses and a dark suit. Good morning, he said. Good morning, Emma replied. Are you Mr. Robert Wilson? The manager asked. Yes, Robert answered. The manager opened a drawer and removed a brown wallet. Robert's eyes widened. That's my wallet! The manager nodded. Please sit down. Emma and Robert sat in two chairs. The manager placed the wallet on the desk. Before I return this wallet, he said, I need to ask you some questions. Robert looked worried again. Of course. The manager opened the wallet carefully. Can you tell me what is inside? Robert began to answer. There are 2 bank cards, my identification card, about $80, and a photograph of my wife. The manager nodded. That is correct. Robert smiled. Then it is definitely mine. Yes, the manager said slowly. However, there is one more item. He reached into the wallet and removed a small folded piece of paper. Emma had never seen it before. Robert stared at it. What is that? He asked. The manager looked surprised. You don't know? Robert shook his head. No. The manager unfolded the paper. There was a handwritten message inside the wallet. Emma leaned forward. A message? The manager nodded. He read the words aloud. To whoever finds this wallet, please help me. I need to tell the truth before it is too late. The room became silent. Emma looked at Robert. Robert looked at Emma. I have never seen that paper before, Robert said quietly. The manager studied his face. You are certain? Absolutely. The manager placed the note on the desk. When the young man found your wallet, he noticed this message. He became concerned and brought it directly to us. Emma looked at the note. The handwriting was neat but unfamiliar. What does it mean? She asked. The manager sighed. We don't know. Robert looked confused and frightened. This makes no sense. The manager nodded. That is why I wanted to speak with you personally. Emma examined the paper more carefully. "May I see it?" she asked. The manager handed it to her. She looked at the words again. Then she noticed something else. "Wait," she said. "What is it?" Robert asked. Emma pointed to the bottom of the paper. "There is more writing here." The manager adjusted his glasses. "You are right." At the bottom of the note, there were 3 small words written in tiny letters. Platform 7, 9 o'clock. Robert's face turned pale. Emma looked at the station clock through the office window. It was 8:45. They had only 15 minutes left. The office became very quiet. Emma looked at the clock again. 8:46. Only 14 minutes remained. Robert stared at the small piece of paper. "I don't understand," he said softly. "Who wrote this?" The station manager folded his hands. "I wish I knew." Emma looked at Robert. "What do you want to do?" she asked. Robert did not answer immediately. He looked at his wallet. He looked at the note. Then he looked at Emma. "I have never seen this message before," he said. "But now I want to know who wrote it." Emma nodded. "I want to know too." The station manager stood up. "I cannot tell you what to do," he said. "But if you decide to go, please be careful." Robert slowly stood up. "Thank you for your help." The manager handed him the wallet. "You are welcome." Robert placed the wallet safely inside his coat pocket. Then he carefully folded the note and put it inside the wallet. Emma and Robert walked quickly out of the office. The hallway seemed longer than before. The station was still crowded. People hurried in every direction. Some were arriving, some were leaving. But Emma noticed that Robert was walking faster now. He no longer looked tired. He looked determined. "Do you know where Platform 7 is?" Emma asked. Robert shook his head. "No." Emma looked around and found a station map on the wall. "There," she said. Platform 7 was on the far side of the station. It was mostly used for regional trains. "Come on," Emma said. They walked quickly through the station. The large clock above the entrance showed 8:50. 10 minutes remained. As they walked, Robert suddenly spoke. "Emma?" "Yes?" "Why are you helping me?" Emma smiled. "I don't know." Robert laughed softly. "There must be a reason." Emma thought for a moment. "My grandfather often traveled by train," she said. "When I was a child, he told me that people should always help each other." Robert smiled. "He was a wise man." "I think so too." They continued walking. Soon they reached Platform 7. It was quieter than the other platforms. Only a few people stood there. A young mother sat with her child. A businessman looked at his watch. An elderly couple talked quietly. Emma looked around. "I don't see anyone unusual," she said. Robert checked the time. 8:53. 7 minutes remained. "What should we do?" he asked. Emma looked at a nearby bench. "Maybe we should wait." They sat down. For a few minutes, nobody spoke. Emma watched the people around them. The businessman walked away. The elderly couple boarded a train. The young mother and her child left the platform. Soon, only Emma and Robert remained. The station announcement system made another announcement. "The train to Westbridge will arrive in 5 minutes." Robert looked nervous. "What if nobody comes?" he asked. Emma did not know how to answer. Then she heard footsteps. She turned around. A woman was walking toward them. She looked to be around 50 years old. She wore a gray coat and carried a black bag. She stopped a few meters away. "Excuse me," she said. Robert stood up. "Yes?" The woman looked carefully at him. "Are you Robert Wilson?" Robert froze. "Yes," he replied. The woman looked relieved. "Thank goodness." Emma stood up too. "Do you know him?" she asked. The woman shook her head. No. Robert looked confused. Then how do you know my name? The woman reached into her bag. She removed an old photograph. I found this years ago, she said. She handed the photograph to Robert. Robert stared at it. His face suddenly lost all color. Emma looked at the photograph. It showed a young man and a young woman standing together. The young man looked exactly like Robert. The woman smiled in the photograph. Robert's hands began to shake. Where did you get this? He asked quietly. The woman took a deep breath. My name is Sarah Bennett, she said. I worked with your wife many years ago. Robert looked shocked. My wife? Sarah nodded. Yes, your wife, Elizabeth. Robert could barely speak. But Elizabeth died 3 years ago. Sarah lowered her eyes. I know. Emma felt a cold feeling in her stomach. Then why did you ask Robert to come here? She asked. Sarah looked at Robert again. Because there is something your wife wanted you to know. The platform became silent. A train could be heard in the distance. Robert stared at Sarah. What are you talking about? He whispered. Sarah slowly opened her black bag. She removed a small envelope. I promised Elizabeth that one day I would give this to you. She held out the envelope. Robert looked at it. His name was written on the front. The handwriting was familiar, very familiar. Robert's eyes filled with tears. It is her handwriting, he said. Sarah nodded. She wrote it before she died. Emma stood quietly beside him. Robert carefully took the envelope. For several seconds, he simply held it. Then he looked at Sarah. Why did you wait so long? He asked. Sarah's eyes filled with tears too. Because I made a terrible mistake. The sound of the arriving train grew louder. But nobody moved. Nobody spoke. Robert looked at the envelope in his hands. He was finally holding a message from the woman he had loved for over 40 years. The train arrived at platform 7 with a loud sound. The doors opened. A few passengers got off. A few passengers got on. Then the train left again. But Robert, Emma, and Sarah did not move. Robert held the envelope carefully in his hands. He looked at the handwriting again. There was no doubt. It belonged to his wife, Elizabeth. His hands were shaking. I haven't seen her handwriting in years, he said quietly. Sarah nodded. I know. Emma stood beside Robert. You don't have to open it now, she said gently. Robert looked at her. Then he looked at the envelope again. No, he said softly. I think I do. He carefully opened the envelope. Inside was a folded letter. The paper was old and slightly yellow. Robert unfolded it slowly. For a moment, he could not speak. Then he began to read. My dear Robert, if you are reading this letter, it means that I am no longer with you. I know this thought will make you sad, and I am sorry for that. But please continue reading. First, I want you to know that I loved you every day of our life together. You were my best friend, my greatest happiness, and the kindest person I ever knew. There is something I never told you. Many years ago, before I became sick, I learned that I had a younger sister. We were separated as children and never knew each other existed. Her name is Sarah. Robert stopped reading. He slowly raised his eyes and looked at Sarah. Sarah's face was wet with tears. I didn't know, Robert whispered. Sarah nodded. Neither did I. Robert looked back at the letter. He continued reading. When I found Sarah, I was very happy. We spent several years getting to know each other. She became very important to me. Then I became sick. The doctors told me that I did not have much time. I wanted to tell you about Sarah, but I was afraid. I was afraid that I would make you sad. I was afraid that I would lose the courage to say goodbye. So I asked Sarah to keep this letter and give it to you one day when she felt the time was right. Please do not be angry with her. This was my decision. Robert, after I am gone, I do not want you to be alone. I want you to continue living. I want you to smile. I want you to travel. I want you to make new friends. And if possible, I want you to know Sarah because she's family. Thank you for every beautiful moment we shared. And remember something very important. Love never disappears. It stays with us forever. With all my love, Elizabeth. The platform was completely silent. Robert lowered the letter. He could not speak. Emma felt tears in her own eyes. Sarah stood quietly. After a long moment, Robert finally looked at her. "You are Elizabeth's sister," he said. Sarah nodded. "Yes. Why didn't you contact me after she died?" Sarah lowered her head. "I wanted to." "Then why didn't you?" She took a deep breath. "Because I was afraid." "Afraid?" Sarah nodded. "I thought you would hate me." Robert looked surprised. "Hate you?" "I promised Elizabeth that I would give you the letter. But after she died, I was grieving too. Time passed. Then more time passed. Every year, it became harder." She wiped away her tears. "I carried this letter for 3 years." Emma looked at Sarah. "Then what happened today?" Sarah smiled sadly. "This morning, I finally decided to come." Robert looked confused. "But how did my wallet become involved?" Sarah laughed softly through her tears. "That part was an accident." Emma and Robert stared at her. Sarah continued. "I saw you enter the station. I recognized you immediately from your photographs. But before I could speak to you, you dropped your wallet near the bench." Robert touched his coat pocket. "I dropped it?" "Yes. I never noticed." Sarah smiled. "You walked away very quickly." Emma suddenly understood. "You wrote the note." Sarah nodded. "Yes. I didn't know how else to get your attention." Robert looked at the small folded note still inside his wallet. "Please help me. I need to tell the truth before it is too late," he read quietly. Sarah looked embarrassed. It sounded dramatic. For the first time in many hours, Robert laughed. Emma laughed too. A few seconds later, Sarah began laughing. The 3 of them stood together on the nearly empty platform. The morning no longer felt cold. Robert carefully folded Elizabeth's letter and placed it back inside the envelope. Then he looked at Sarah. "Elizabeth wanted us to know each other." "Yes," Sarah said softly. "Then perhaps we should." Sarah smiled. "I would like that." Robert looked at Emma. "And none of this would have happened without you." Emma smiled. "I only wanted to help find a lost wallet." Robert shook his head. "No." He held up the envelope. "You helped me find something much more important." Emma did not know what to say. They stood together for a moment. Then Robert smiled. "Would either of you like a cup of coffee?" Emma laughed. "Yes." Sarah smiled. "I would love one." The 3 of them walked back through the station together. People continued rushing to work. Trains continued arriving and departing. The city continued moving. But for Robert, everything had changed. He had arrived at the station believing that he had lost something important. Instead, he had found a part of his family. And he had received one final message from the person he loved most. Sometimes, life surprises us. Sometimes, a lost wallet can lead us to something we never expected. And sometimes, when we choose to help a stranger, we discover that kindness can change more than one life.